Right, yes, as said, Neil Leitch. I'm the historian for Cricket Scotland, and I keep all the history of all the games that Scotland have played. They first started playing games in 1865, and I've got all the records back in my house. I also write historical articles about cricket in Scotland and also make sure that any facts presented are accurate about it. Apart from that, I score cricket games, and I've been lucky enough to score just over 300 games for the Scotland cricket team.
Fantastic. But any experience about your international scoring?
Yes, of the scoring, I first started scoring for the Scotland team. I scored one game in 1975, but I became the regular scorer in 1982. And I was lucky enough to go all around the United Kingdom, a lot of games in England, but I've also scored 2 tours in South Africa, 1 tour a month long in Kuala Lumpur, and also a month-long tour in Toronto in Canada. And I also have done 2 World Cups. One of them was in England and the other one was in the West Indies. This club, the Grange Club that play here, were formed in 1832 at the other side of Edinburgh. It was in a district called Grange. They soon moved out of there because the ground wasn't very good, but they kept the name the Grange. So now they came to this ground in 1872, and it soon became the best ground in Edinburgh, and many would say the best ground in Scotland. Many of the Scotland games I've played at this ground at Raeburn Place. Most notably, 2 years ago, 2018, Scotland beat England in a one-day international at this very ground. That was Scotland's biggest ever victory. They also, way back in 1882, Scotland beat Australia in a one-day game.
Amazing.
Again at this very ground.
That's great. Actually, this is for our viewers. This is something very exciting to know about Scotland team. So what is the current status of Scotland cricket? Would just like to know from you.
Right, well, Scottish cricket, like every other country in the world, has been hit by the COVID crisis, so cricket had to stop. Our season would normally start in the middle of April. Well, it couldn't because of the COVID crisis. And it was only 3 weeks ago that clubs were allowed by the Scottish Government to play practice games just amongst themselves in their club. And you're speaking on the very night, this Tuesday night is the first club game that we've got at this ground against another club. It'll be against another club from Edinburgh, and if all goes well, we'll then be playing from tonight until the middle of September against other clubs from Edinburgh. The rank in the world cricket, it depends on, we don't play test matches, Scotland are not of sufficient rank. We do play one-day internationals and we're ranked about 12th in the world for that. We're also play T20 internationals and we're slightly above, I think we're 11th in the world for T20 internationals. We also have a women's team and they are ranked a wee bit below it, but they also play one-day internationals and T20 internationals against other women's teams.
Fantastic.
So we have complete scope, and we also try to participate in the Under-19 World Cup. And the Scotland Under-19s have had a very successful team in recent years and have played against India Under-19s, Pakistan Under-19s and all the other countries.
So
that is the big aim of the governing body. Our governing body is called Cricket Scotland, and all their efforts just now are to be made a test play nation. Now, the ICC have put in a lot of rules that you've got to meet before you can be made a test playing country. Now, a couple of countries have recently achieved that, Afghanistan and Ireland, and Scotland wants to be the next country to achieve it. We've ticked a lot of the boxes, so we feel we are not far away from being a test play nation. So hopefully that will come within a very few years and we can call ourselves a test play nation. I think the main thing though is, even after you become a test play nation, not all that many people watch tests these days. The people that come to watch one-day internationals.
True.
And that glorious day 2 years ago when we beat England, if you can imagine, there was thousands in this ground. There were stands put in for the day, and they're all cheering the time that we beat England.
Fantastic. There is a lot of rivalry between England and Scotland on the ground.
Yes, like India, Pakistan.
Yeah. Hi Neil, it is a really pleasure to talk to you. Would just want from you that you have been a scorer, want to know from you what are the changes that have happened in the scoring style, scoring patterns, or scoring rules, etc.
Yeah.
Any significant changes?
Well, when I started scoring, I was at school, and the books you used to score in were very old-fashioned. So you always had your coloured pens and pencils and scored in it. As the years went by, for high-level games, you went into linear books, they called it, which are bigger books and which are like accounting ledgers. And I used to score in those, and I very much enjoyed doing it. However, within the last 10 years, a lot of the scoring is now done on a computer, on a laptop or a tablet perhaps, and everyone can do it. Now this makes it easier for younger people. Schoolboys can adapt far easier to just scoring on their laptop, and they can press the buttons and keep the score. It's perhaps a bit harder for somebody my age to fully adapt to all of this, and I honestly prefer doing a nice picture with all my pretty pens, and it looks a prettier picture rather than just getting a computer printout. But that's the way it's going. In a few years' time, I don't think we'll have cricket scorebooks. We'll always have to have a sheet in case the computer system breaks down, because if you imagine it, if you're scoring on a laptop and your laptop breaks down, you can't ask them to stop the cricket game. You've got to keep on scoring, so you've always got to have a pen and paper handy just in case that happens. But the main amount of scoring that's done will be done. And perhaps if you look behind me, there is a sign there that says Genius and another says Close Brothers. That is the press centre in the score box at this ground. For instance, when Scotland beat England, that would be full of cricket scorers all operating on laptops and doing their job.
Fantastic. But nowadays we see a lot of data being analyzed, a lot of things, no, like how many balls were bowled on good length, how many were bowled on a short of length, and how many Yorkers were bowled. So all these things also you note down?
Yeah, I don't note those down. I do note how many balls faced. And when I started scoring for Scotland in 1982, only some scorers noted the number of balls you faced. They always record the number of minutes you're in, but not the number of balls you faced. Now you've got to record the balls you faced, the number of runs scored in each power play. But that's pretty well as far as the scorers go. However, each team, a high-level team, will have an analyst, and the analyst is photographing what's going on. He's taking a video, and he's looking at all the balls that are short of a length, full length, full tosses, and he's using that to coach the players in his team. That isn't the job of the scorer. The analyst, he is just for his own team, and he's trying to promote the players in his team.
Yeah, absolutely. And also nowadays we get the data like how many catches dropped.
Yes, yeah, quite.
Then how many were the half chances, how many were the full chances, and all those things.
That type of work would be more done by the analyst. I'm more worried about the number of runs scored, the balls faced, and also the season's averages. What's the average for the season of each batsman and each bowler? So
is any incidents in your life when you have made any mistake while scoring, and then the teams have the match has been affected due to that, or a result has been affected?
Yeah, I always remember the first ever game I scored was at Old Trafford for Scotland, which is a big ground. It's where the test matches have recently been. And I was down there scoring for Scotland against Lancashire. And Scotland batted first and were doing very, very badly. And then a player came out to bat who I knew, he was a sort of friend of mine. And he went in a left-hander, and he went into bat, and he did extraordinarily well. And I couldn't believe my friend was doing so well. And then I thought, maybe it isn't. So I phoned the dressing room, and it was the first time I'd had a phone. So I phoned the dressing room, and it wasn't my friend. I thought I got it totally wrong, and I got very embarrassed. They had to change the name on the scorebox. And I thought this will be my first and last game for Scotland. But fortunately they let me off, and they let me keep scoring. It's unfortunate the Scotland team have been practising. Well, they've not got any games this summer because of the COVID crisis. They have been practising, and for the last few weeks they've been here Monday to Thursday every week. But I believe they've been given this week off, and they'll be back next week. So sorry, you picked the wrong week.
No issue. Just wanted to ask you to name a few good players whom do you feel potentially making an impact in the international cricket.
Well, of the Scotland team just now, George Munsey, who used to play at this club, is a very good T20 player, and he's been making a great impact. And if he's in form, he can hit the ball many a mile out of the ground. And the Scotland captain, Kyle Coetzer, he was recently honoured by Her Majesty the Queen for his services to cricket. So he's a great man as well, and well deserves the honour of being captain of the Scotland team. And Callum MacLeod, another one of the batsmen in the Scotland team, he played the match-winning innings that famous day when we beat England.